Got the '07 Honda Pilot. Today I am dealing with the p2647, and I've dealt with this one other time with the Accord motor. So it was a Honda Odyssey. That's what it was. It was a van, but it had the same motor in there. And since it was my first time dealing with it, I know how now we can tackle it just like spot on. So we can be a lot more efficient with dealing with this, and hopefully this video will be a little bit more informative than the last one. But what's happening, unlike the last car, which will trigger a code when driving, that conclusion wound up being the oil pressure sensor, and that oil pressure sensor resides here on the back here for the VCM, the vehicle cylinder the variable cylinder management. So it's a VCM, so that's what it is, variable cylinder management. I can't remember all the abbreviations. So it's not a VTEC, but it alters the cylinders to where it deactivates the bank to where it can help with fuel efficiency, fuel economy. Long story short. So what's going on with this one again? The code will manifest at idle. There's a rattle during startup, and once the pressure drops, the oil pressure drop, it'll start rattling even more, and the check-in light will come on. Then you will get a host of misfires. So I did take a screenshot of those codes in history because I cleared the codes and was going to address the immediate comebacks. I think here it is right here. So we had, of course, the primary code. I'm just going to get that glare off the screen. 2647. The variable cylinder management stuck on, and we had misfires on cylinder 4, 6, random multiple misfire, and I think the other page had what did I do all that? Also had misfires. So, and that's basically was permanent or temporary set. So we had soft and hard codes in regards to cylinder misfires. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna let you hear it, and we're going to tackle this issue like a pro, narrow down the problem, and if it's fixable, we'll address it. If not, I guess we'll work it out. We'll see. But let's see what noise it's making, and we'll pretty much go from there. And I'll show you some PID data also. So currently it's running okay, and then it will suddenly, there we go, start a misfire. Check-in light will come on, then it'll start rattling real bad. Alright, I don't know if I mentioned, but it's got 165,000 miles on it. So currently what I'm going to do is, of course, clear these codes and show you the comebacks. So this is the code coming up. So we have, of course, we got misfires and the cylinder management is stuck on. Let's clear it. Engine's off. Codes are cleared. And we're going to look at live PID data. Isolate the main ones I need here. Go to the rocker arm control. Here we go. Rocker arm control solenoid bank 1. Pressure, voltage. So we're not going to worry about the misfires, because this is where it's claiming that there's a problem here in the rocker arm control area here. So I'm going to start up, and the check engine light is off, so it's running fine right now. And we're going to take a look at the oil pressure. Now, normal idle oil pressure is supposed to be around 16 psi with vehicles that don't have any problems. And it's at 2 psi. Now the check-in light came on. Idle change, it went higher, and the psi went higher. This is not normal oil pressure. Not normal oil pressure at all. But let me show you one more thing here. If I was to do a VCM test, let me clear these codes because it's not going to let me do a test. without these codes cleared and everything assuming to be okay. So we're going to go to inspection. We're going to go to VTech test. Now I can activate the solenoid here, or I can go through a complete test. Alright, so it's requesting that I start the motor up, and I'm going to have to hold a RPM. So engine RPM currently is at 2,000, and it's going to go through its test. Pay attention to the 82 kPa there. So the solenoid is stuck off. Now it's commanding the solenoid valve on. It's changing idle. kPa dropped to 6 kPa. The engine oil pressure dropped to 3 kPa, 12, and it's fluctuating around there. So, all right, why is this test normal? And it's running like crap right now. All right, so why did the system testing meet the criteria and it became normal? All right, so the oil pressure sensor in the back here only monitors the overall oil pressure of the engine. And this is why I think that sensor's bad, or there's some type of obstruction in the VCM control area, or there's a leak down issue with the solenoid, is because that oil pressure sensor became normal. So if there was a problem with the oil pressure, that test would have failed because the oil pressure would have been low. Theoretically. I mean, if it's literally making 2 psi, again, the guy, I don't know if I said this, but this car came from auction. The guy drove several miles here to bring the car. It lived. And I don't know what car will live if the oil psi is theoretically, general rule of thumb is supposed to be 10 psi for every 1,000 RPM. General rule of thumb. The car's making 9 psi at the most, I think we've seen. So the car is making adequate oil pressure because that feedback sensor for the VCM control system came back normal. So we have to look at the context clues. The engine survived, from what the customer stated. He drove it several miles here. It lived. 9 psi is definitely not an adequate amount of oil pressure for an engine, when the general rule of thumb is it's supposed to be 10 psi for every 1,000 RPM. That's just a general rule of thumb. Also, did I mention? No oil light. No oil lights on. And I think I forgot the first one. So I think I forgot the first one. So we have a good cylinder deactivation, and we have confirmation that the system is making adequate oil pressure to deactivate the system, because we have confirmation from that feedback sensor over there that's by the oil filter. So the sensor above the oil filter is a pressure switch that sends feedback to the computer saying, hey, the system's working, once the VCM actuator or VCM solenoid activates. Alright, so I think everything's fine. The first thing I'm going to go to, of course, is change the oil filter. It's a Fram oil filter on it now. I do have some micro guards. I never had any trouble with micro guards except for one issue. But this was not an oil change that I've serviced. It was with the vehicle who it sat for years, and the oil filter wound up getting stopped up. And I simply just screwed the old one off, screwed another one on, and it fixed the problem. Long story short, but I guess if you want to know the story, oil filters do get stopped up. It happens. It's rare. But, I mean, even in some of my old videos in the archive, we've seen oil filters or oil changes save vehicles, like, and correct some of the check engine lights. So it's worth just going ahead and changing the oil filter and ensuring that it's not stopped up. That will be the cheaper option first. I could just go ahead and do, being that this car came from the auction. We don't have any history on this. And let's take a look at the oil here. I mean, the oil does look normal. So things happen. We don't have any history on this car. But I'm under the impression everything should work a lot better once we put new oil in here and a new filter. Also, if that doesn't correct the problem, then we know we need to go inside that VCM assembly and inspect that. Make sure that the gasket's not broken inside of it. Also, that the solenoid is not leaking. Because if you look at it, there's a couple O-rings on the solenoid here, just like a regular solenoid for any type of actuating system that needs to bypass and control another source. So take the oil filter off. I'm gonna change that, and then we'll recheck it, monitor the oil pressure, see if it changes any, and if so, we got to fix. If not, then we need to go and check the overall oil pressure. And if the oil pressure is fine, which I think the oil pressure is fine, then that sensor, the oil sensor, needs to be replaced. Just that simple. All right, here we are, right by the oil filter. Let's see if I can't find my oil filter wrench, so we're gonna use this big pair of pliers to pull the stroker off. First thing I can get my hands on, so it does have a little oil leak somewhere, but that's not going to be the problem here. I've heard people in their testimonies with Fram, but I don't think it's a brand problem. Reasons why this oil could potentially, well, yeah, I'm starting to have my doubts now. I think it's that sensor, and I'm going to tell you why. I'm looking at the gasket, and it looks pretty thick and pliable. It's impressionable. It's not, yeah, it doesn't look too contaminated, but anything could happen, you know. But we're still going to go after this first. Put some fresh oil in it. It could be a viscosity thing, so they probably could have put the wrong type of oil in it. We are looking at this together. I got the oil changed already, and we're just simply going to go back to the live data. And I mean, I'm prepared for it not to work. It's not like I don't have other avenues, but at the same time, no cheaper than what an oil change is and the history of the vehicle. Let's change it. I understand I probably should have put the oil pressure gauge to it, but at the same time, you can't really test a oil filter without pulling it off. And if you pull it off, throw one on there. They're just like a couple dollars. It's not that big of a deal. So I mean, I understand we're in essence shooting apart at it. All right, let's start it up. Alright, so we have PSI now. We have 24 PSI. Unlike before, it was at 9. Let's see if it climbs or if it falls. This is progress in comparison to what we had before. So it's climbing up also. It's 27. 25, 26. So this is a hell of a lot better than what we had before. Because before it was like at 2, 3 PSI. Let me give a little gas, hold it about, this is normal here, so I'm holding about 2,000 RPM. Oh yeah, it's rising like normal. Wow. Huh. You know, I was kind of giving myself the benefit of the doubt if I was wrong, so we can all forget that disclaimer, right? Shooting parts at it, because it's accurate. It fixed it, so yeah, we didn't shoot no part at it. No, we didn't. We got it right the first time. Nah. So, what we see here, obviously, is a oil change fixed the problem. Crazy as it is, even though the oil filter superficially looked up to par, there was a problem with it. I mean, it could have been viscosity related. It could have been the incorrect oil that was installed in the vehicle. You know what? Let me clear this code because that'll be the ultimate test here. Despite seeing normal oil pressure, I'm going to clear this code. All right, so we got the code cleared. No fault codes. Let's go back to live data, start the car up. Let's go back down to, and then before it would run like crap after a couple minutes. Not even just a couple minutes, a couple seconds. So let's see if that also is corrected. Where's my PID data? No, that's not what I want. Here we go. So yeah, we got rocker arm, pressure, solenoid B. Cool. This is normal. Even though it's falling a little bit, this is normal. Again, every 1,000 RPM, you want 10 PSI. Before we didn't have that. It was at 2 PSI. Even though it's creeping down a little bit, as the oil gets hot, it thins out, metal expand. We're going to see it fall, but as long, give or take a PSI or so, as long as we're seeing somewhere around 15, about 12 or so on probably on a very hot day, this is good. This is still real good here. I'm going to give it a little gas and hold about 2,000 RPM. You know, let me pull that PID up so you can see, because I'm not sure what the sound is picking up. Engine RPM should be right at the top, typically. Alright, so here's our RPM at top here. I'm going to hold about 2,000 RPM. We clearly see normal oil pressure. I'm going to go up to 3,000 RPM. We clearly see a huge increase. Hey, this car is fixed, man. Alright, so here's it running after the fix. Even though it sounds like a truck, the car has like 165,000 miles, so likely it needs a valve adjustment. Let me shut this car up. Yeah, I'm about to fall over. So yeah, this car is fixed, man. Good thing is I didn't have to go through the extent of further diagnosing. I just looked at the context clues, being that, again, the car ran fine after driving several miles. Didn't blow up, didn't lock up. So that's a hint there. Hey, this oil pressure is okay. But it's unfortunate that the pressure sensor was reading 2 PSI despite the oil pump being capable of supplying the volume. I guess it developed air pockets. I guess there was a couple other factors. You know, cars don't require a lot of oil, and we've seen on some other videos where cars can last a long time before they lock up. It's amazing. You know, it doesn't require a lot of oil. I'm pretty sure there was a lot of theories out there as to why this car lasted that long. But the pressure feedback for the VCM was accurate. The oil pressure was fluctuating, unfortunately, because the sensor was questionable. The engine lived, driving several miles. So, I mean, it only point to two things: a stopped up oil filter or a faulty oil pressure sensor. Unfortunately, the sound didn't get alleviated. It didn't correct that. But being that this car, it works. Looked at the context clues. We were accurate, and we did not have to test the oil pressure. A cheap fix, put a oil filter on it. Didn't put a high price Fram on there, even though the high price Fram could have been the problem because of the quality filter. It could have been a viscosity related issue. I don't know. I'm not going to send that oil off to be oil analyzed, but we got the car fixed now. We'll see if it holds up. Check engine light didn't come on as it did before. It couldn't idle no longer than 3 minutes without check engine light popping on. So this is a confirmed fix. We saw the PID data. We saw the before and after. This car is producing normal, adequate fuel pressure. Normal, adequate oil pressure now. I'm going to finish going through this look over and give the guy the good news. He's going to pay his diagnostic fee, and I'm going to work on my other projects. But hey, look, if you're not subscribed, hit that subscribe link. Stay informed. Have that reassurance in my work. See you on the next one. Here I am. I know I concluded my video, but I figure out as to why. Let me cut this car off. Why? It's not Fram. I'm gonna put it that way. Fram didn't do it. Wal-Mart did it. And I'm gonna tell you how Wal-Mart did it. Here it is right here. So they changed the oil. Today is the 4th. Shut up. If it'll zoom in, today's the 4th. And look at that. They changed it 2/16. Well, the due date was 2/16. There's the oil right there. They put 0.20 in there, so it was a viscosity problem. It wasn't that of the Fram oil filter. Wal-Mart employee put the wrong type of oil in there, so my conjecture was correct. So it was a viscosity issue. Well, what do you know? Wow, it kind of took my breath away because I go to put my fancy high quality MicroGuard oil filter sticker on here and happen to look up there, and there it go. Sorry, Fram. It's Walmart's fault this time. Alright, hit that link, subscribe to the channel, stay informed, had to reassure some of my work. See you next one.